Since 1998, the Ballon d'Or in a World Cup year have always operated under one overwhelming, non-negotiable rule. 71% of the winners were either the best players at the World Cup or the defining face of the nation that eventually lifted the trophy. Think about that timeline. In 1998, Zidane scored just 6 goals for Juventus, yet 2 header goals in a World Cup final rendered every domestic start irrelevant. In 2002, Ronaldo Nazario missed almost the entirety of the club season recovering from a knee injury. Played only 16 games for Inter, but went ahead to score 8 goals in the Korea and Japan World Cup. That was enough to secure the award. In 2006, Fabio Cannavaro had voted attacking genius like Henry and Ronaldinho simply because he captained an Italian team that conceded just twice in 7 games. In 2018, Luka Modric broke the Messi and Ronaldo's dominance not by scoring them, but by running 72 kilometers across Russia to drag Croatia to the final. And in 2022, Lionel Messi's domestic campaign at PSG was completely eclipsed by 7 legendary matches in Qatar. Different positions, different leagues, but the statistics are looking the same. The World Cup overrides everything. 7 matches carry more mathematical and emotional weight in the minds of over 50 journalists than what over 50 club games could ever do. That reveals a bitter truth about the current Ballon d'Or race. Lamine Yamal, Dembele, Harry Kane. Who do you think is currently the front runner for this award? Let me reveal that to you. Starting with the first point, the Champions League effect on the Ballon d'Or. Outside the World Cup, there's only one competition with enough narrative gravity to tilt voting during the Ballon d'Or season, and that competition is the Champions League. Since 2007, outside of international tournament windows, majority of winners either won the Champions League or produced legendary carry jobs in the knockout rounds of the competition. Cristiano Ronaldo's prime Ballon d'Or streak was fueled mainly by late-stage Champions League hat-tricks. Karim Benzema's 2022 award was locked in April after scoring consecutive knockout hat-tricks against PSG and Chelsea. So the narrative is clear. Outside of a World Cup campaign, the Champions League becomes the next deciding factor. But in 2026, we have both, and that creates a problem. The World Cup narrative versus the Champions League dominance. Ousmane Dembele represents the strongest Champions League driven profile in the entire race. Let us look at his case objectively. Consistent, impressive numbers across all competitions. The most important figure in a Champions League winning side, PSG. Important goals and assists in the quarterfinals, semi-final and finals. And to wrap it up, a crucial role in securing domestic titles. In a standard non-World Cup year, this specific stat wins you the Ballon d'Or 80% of the time. But here is the structural flaw in his case. In a World Cup circle, Champions League winners don't disappear. They just get downgraded unless they carry the same momentum into international competition. If a player dominates Europe in May but experiences a quiet or early exit at the World Cup in July, the global voting body suffers from a severe recessing bias. Ousmane Dembele sits in a very dangerous position. Now, let us look at what the market and the odds are saying. To understand where the voting is actually heading, we have to look at past media talking points and look at live market predictions like the polling market versus the traditional sport books. Traditional bookmakers price odds based on cumulatives, season-long volume, goals, assists, average match rating, and household names. This is why they systematically favor high-volume attackers like Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. Prediction platforms like the polling market tells an entirely different story. Prediction market react instantly to shift in narrative. A knockout winner, a golden ball performance, or a shocking exit. They don't price what happened in November. They price how 100 international journalists will feel when holding a pen in October. The moment a nation established dominance at the World Cup, smart money instantly shifts away from domestic stats and concentrate entirely on international focal points. This is not just a speculative, that is a probability being repriced in real time. Now, let us run through every major contender through our 3 statistical filters: the World Cup, the Champions League, and the prediction market. Starting with the first contender, Harry Kane. 73 goals across all competitions, a domestic double, and a run to the World Cup semi-final. On paper, this is one of the most dominant clinical centre-forward performances in history. In 2013 or 2015, this stat wins you the award automatically. But because his journey stopped short of the ultimate World Cup glory, he lacks the primary multiplier. He must rely on voters choosing total season volume over World Cup mythology, a choice international journalists rarely make in the July window. Now, let us go to Lamine Yamal. Case includes a World Cup winner, a global superstar, a La Liga winner and the La Liga best player of the season, and also one of the most important persons in a Spanish team that just won the World Cup. In reality, he possesses the exact same narrative voters love to go for. However, his candidacy runs into the most rigid demographic rule in France football, the age wall. In the history of the award, 69 voting circles, a teenager has never won the award. Pelé, not Ronaldo Nazario, who was 21 during his first award, or even Messi, who didn't win his first Ballon d'Or till he turned 22, despite being the best player in the world before that. Voters subconsciously penalize teenagers, viewing their youth as a reason to make them wait their turn, in favor of an established star peak year. Lamine Yamal represents the strongest narrative matched against an unbroken structural wall. You might want to argue that this is false, but take a look at last season. Lamine Yamal dominant Champions League performance but didn't win the World Cup. But he was arguably the best player in the world. He came second. Neymar in 2015, also one of the best players in the world. He didn't win it because of one thing: age. Now, let us go to the next candidate, because this is where it actually gets more insane. Let us look at the case of Rodri, and tactically the most important person in a Spanish team that just won the World Cup. In reality, he fits the exact same narrative as Fabio Cannavaro and Luka Modric, the engine room of an international dominant World Cup team, who also captained them to reaching at least the World Cup final or even lifting the trophy, as we saw with Fabio Cannavaro. But here's the problem: he lacks a Champions League title season, lacks a domestic dominance, and more importantly, he also suffers from a systemic defensive midfielder bias. Defensive players require near unanimous media alignment to overcome attacking stats leaders. Now, let us go back to Ousmane Dembele. He remains the only player in this league with the best club performance. If international voters decided that he didn't do enough in the World Cup to warrant him winning another Ballon d'Or, his vote gets split. And here's where Kylian Mbappe comes in. A World Cup Golden Boot, a World Cup semi-finalist, and an incredible season scoring in the La Liga. Statistically, he has an high output, but going trophyless with Real Madrid and also not winning the World Cup with France, history says statistical dominance alone don't win you the Ballon d'Or. And lastly, Lionel Messi, the greatest individual legacy in the award history. In reality, even for the ultimate outlier, the 2026 conditions do not apply. Playing outside of Europe and also not winning the World Cup trophy, though he had a very good World Cup performance, but the system only rewards substance. At least he needs a World Cup trophy to show for it. But right now, he doesn't. So the standard holds. Now, let us put it all together, all the criteria we have been mentioning, and let us see who might actually win the upcoming Ballon d'Or. When top-tier contenders sit within a few percentage points from each other, voters resort to the official France football selection criteria, and they include individual performance and decisive movement, team performance and achievement, and lastly, class and fair play. Criteria number 3 is routinely ignored by fans, but it acts like a tiebreaker among conservative international journalists. Players with clean disciplinary stats, 0 high-profile red cards, no off-field controversies, and a calm presence on the pitch gain an incredible edge over others. We have seen this happen before. In 2024, Vini Jr. was rumored to be the winner, but when the class and fair play criteria went in, he lost to Rodri. Now, every piece of the puzzle have been put into place. In 2026, the historical hierarchy remains absolute. Will over 100 international journalists follow 25 years of unbroken history? Or they will break the precedent for the first time in modern era? If they do, this will grant Hurricane the award based on long season raw statistics, performing in club and domestic competition, and also scoring a lot of goals at the World Cup. Or will they make Yamal the youngest ever teenager to ever win the trophy? But if they behave the same way they have always did for the past 25 years, might just be the person that won the Golden Ball, and that is Rodri. So now, the best 3 candidates are in place: Hurricane, Rodri, or Lamine Yamal. In my own personal opinion, I think they will go with the historical record, and I think Rodri is winning the Ballon d'Or. If you have any other contrary opinions, please like, follow, and comment it in the comment section below.